Howdy ho, neighbors. How's it going? Nintenjoel here once again, and I thought I'd do a little discussion video. I was thinking about how my game playing has changed over the years. Have you guys ever thought about how much your game playing goals, what you play, how you play them, and how you interpret games has changed over time? I have, and that's why I'm doing this video. I've really noticed in the last, probably 2 or 3 years, mostly the last 2 years, that a lot of what I was playing and what I'm currently playing are quite different. And not just the games I'm playing, but the style of games I'm playing, what systems I'm playing them on. Let me just explain. I guess I'll just give you some examples and start this discussion video. And I'd like to hear you guys' comments down below. Even better, if any of you guys are watching that are YouTubers, make a response video to this one, because I'm not sure anybody's really talked about this before, or if they've have, maybe it's been a while, but I couldn't really find anything exactly on this subject. But my game playing has changed a lot in the last few years. Specific games have changed the way I think about games. Specific systems have made me change the way I think about games, and even current gen consoles have changed the way I think about gaming and what I collect and what I play and what I enjoy. Obviously, I'm a retro gamer. I've been playing games since I was 3 years old, which would be 1982. I've been playing since the arcades. The first game I ever remember playing was Q*bert, standing on a little stool when I was a kid. Then it shifted to Atari, and then it shifted to Nintendo, and then it shifted to Super Nintendo. And here's where the discussion kind of begins. I always loved video games, and I always collected games for those systems, but I never really got into it much further than Nintendo and Super Nintendo, and I have my Game Boy, and even Atari. I feel like I hit a roadblock when I moved to Oregon, and I had to learn a lot of new things and meet a lot of new people and make a lot of new friends, and I started playing music, and I just started not gaming as much, and there's been a few gaps in my life where I didn't game as much, but I kept my games. So a lot of these games, not a lot of these games, but a lot of these Super Nintendo games, quite a few of them are my childhood/teen copies. Same with my Nintendo games, which you can't see, they're right here, but I kind of stopped collecting games, and that happened a couple times. That's happened a couple times in my life where I've just kind of given it a break. Even if I did play games a little bit, it would be the same old thing. I'd be playing Mario World and Final Fantasy VI and maybe Mortal Kombat 3 Ultimate and, a few other games that gave me pleasure throughout the years. Dragon Warrior 4 on Nintendo. So one of these periods hit after I moved to Oregon when I was 15, and I didn't really game much until I was 18. And a friend got a PlayStation, and Final Fantasy VII came out. Final Fantasy VII and Resident Evil, and even dumb games like Courier Crisis on PlayStation 1, I was completely enamored with. And all of a sudden I felt like I had to enter this new realm of gaming that I didn't foresee myself doing. I didn't really see myself getting into any new games because I had Super Nintendo, which is and was probably still is my favorite system of all time, but I didn't really see myself needing anything else. And then I saw, Final Fantasy VII, and I remember when I saw Symphony of the Night, Castlevania Symphony of the Night for the first time, I absolutely knew I had to play it. I knew I had to have that system. So that's one time in my life that games changed my perspective a little bit. I played Final Fantasies and some PlayStation and, random games here and there. Even a tiny bit of N64 as a teenager, and then when I moved out on my own and lived in Corvallis, which is up north in Oregon. And so I played those a little bit, and then I just kind of stopped gaming anything new for the longest time. So at that point it was I played Nintendo, Super Nintendo, maybe even some PlayStation. And then I kind of gave it a break again, and then I remember a notable thing happened, and that was a friend of mine getting me into emulation briefly, because he was a computer nerd, and I was just starting to really get into PCs, and not for gaming though. mostly for like downloading and pirating stuff, especially music. And he was like, yeah, but you can play these games like in super, you can play it in super good quality, full screen, if you're playing a handheld game. And I was like, ooh, I wouldn't mind playing some handheld games in full screen. And somehow that got turned into me playing Minish Cap on Game Boy Advance. And I hadn't had a Game Boy Color. I hadn't had a Game Boy Advance. I'd never even really played a Game Boy Advance. I saw the graphics on Zelda Minish Cap and was like, holy crap, this looks like a Super Nintendo game, which basically, I mean, the Game Boy Advance is basically a handheld Super Nintendo. It's about as powerful, and many Super Nintendo games have been ported over to the Game Boy Advance, some even better than the original. I'm looking at you, Breath of Fire. But, yeah, so I played Minish Cap, and I played that all the way through and was like, wow, the Game Boy Advance is awesome. So here was another time in my life where my perceptions changed a little bit, where I was like, wow, I thought I was fine with what I had. Like, I didn't think I needed new gaming. I've never been one to be, like, on the cutting edge of technology or anything like that. In fact, quite the opposite. I never like to buy things when they're brand new and super expensive. That's just not who I am. I'm not really a penny pincher, because I spend money pretty damn easily, but I never was into, like, getting the new system. And I didn't even have a Game Boy Color at that point. But yeah, the Game Boy Advance blew me away, so I ended up playing like Minish Cap and some of the Breath of Fires, the ports of Breath of Fires, and like I beat Dark Alliance on there, which underrated gem. Dark Alliance on Game Boy Advance is completely different from the other versions on like PlayStation 2 and Xbox. Dark Alliance is actually super fun on Game Boy Advance. Weird isometric view, but really awesome combat. If you like hack and slash, I highly suggest it. Just struggling to think of what else. Oh yeah, I beat Metroid Fusion, Metroid Zero Mission on that. I think I even played the 3 Castlevanias before I had them on cartridge, which was Harmony of Dissonance, Circle of the Moon, and Aria of Sorrow. Not in that order, but yeah. So that changed my opinion too. And let's see, I've got notes over here. What's the next thing? Let's see. I'll try to reach for these games as I see them on my list here. Okay, here's a good one. 999 is something else that kind of changed my mind about gaming. If you ever would have told me that like I would like a visual novel game, or even maybe start to seek them out these days, yeah, I'd be like, what are you talking about? 999 is like a visual novel mixed with like a puzzle game. It's a super dark story. 9 hours, 9 persons, 9 doors is what it's actually called. It involves 9 people on a ship, and they're trying to escape. They've been taken, and I'm not going to spoil any of the story. The reason I have 2 copies is because they made 2 different versions just of the cover of this game, and I just always liked this one, but I got this one originally, so this one's actually empty. This one's got the cartridge, but I just like both covers, so I kept both of them. But 999 definitely changed my mind on like visual novels. I know before I had zero interest in anything like that, and then I played 999 and was so completely immersed in the dark story and the awesome graphics, and sometimes hair pulling out, brain smoking puzzles that were involved. I had to beat all the endings, actually. I have completely destroyed that game, beat all the endings on it, and I love it, and I'll probably do it again. It's a super fun game, but one that absolutely changed my perception. I had no idea that I could or would be into any game like that. Without even looking, I can tell you that one of these is real easy to talk about. Remember one time going to my sister's house, and my nephew was like playing a game in the living room, and like his friend was playing Katamari in the room, and I just passed by and was like, what the hell are you playing? And this is my nephew's friend Catherine, and she was like, this is Katamari. Obviously it wasn't this one, it was the PlayStation 2 one. And I was like, what the hell are you doing? And she's like, I'm rolling things up. I'm just like, okay. And she was like on a way later level, and she was like rolling buildings up and stuff. And I was like, what the hell is this game? This isn't an RPG, it's not an adventure game, but I want to play this so bad. And the first time I played Katamari, I was absolutely blown away that a game could be that addicting, that hair-raising, and that, like, panic-inducing sometimes. When that timer starts going off, when you only have a minute left on the course, it's like, you feel it, man. You feel it in your heart. It's crazy. Katamari is definitely a game that changed my mind about gaming. I had no idea I would like something like this at all if I hadn't seen it, and I had no idea it would literally become one of my favorite game series of all time. I love Katamari. It is so fucking fun. If you haven't played Katamari games, you roll things up, and the more you roll things up, obviously your ball gets bigger, and the bigger things you can roll up. That's it. Plus time limits. It's it's insanely fun. You start by rolling up like thumbtacks and like pieces of candy, and then by the end you're rolling up like entire cities. It's nuts. It's so fun. And there's a bunch of Katamari games, so if you ever want to get into those and you've never heard of them, definitely check them out. The Katamari games are some of the most addicting games I've ever found, and in fact, when I'm like feeling kind of sleepy, I'll sometimes put a Katamari game on just to kind of wake up, because that end timer gets you freaking amped, almost adrenaline going. So yeah, that's a good one right there. So let's see, what's another game that has changed my mind? Or this one's actually one specific game, and it was really, I can't say it was recently. I played this game before and I liked it, but I played it again recently and really liked it, and now it's making me want to play games kind of like it. Stick with me here. So the game I'm talking about is Phantasy Star Online, the first one. If you guys don't know what it is, it was on Dreamcast, it was on GameCube. I think I have it on GameCube. Anyways, there's a bunch of Phantasy Star Online games. You don't have to play them online. They're action RPGs, but the way the action goes is almost turn-based too. It's an odd system, and it's something that I didn't really think I'd get into. But this recent time that I played Phantasy Star Online, the clunky battle system almost like is the reason I liked it. Like, I don't know what it was. Like, something about the battle system being like, walk up to a dude, slash, like, then he slashes, then you slash. Like, I don't know. There's something about it that it's turn-based, but you move around, it's kind of action-based, but it's real clunky, and for some reason I love it. I have no idea why, and recently I've really been getting into the Phantasy Star games, including the older ones, which I will talk about another one here in a second. Yeah, I don't know what it is, but Phantasy Star Online completely, like, got me with its clunky battle system. Like, I say clunky, but I mean it almost as a compliment. Like, there's something about that battle system I like, and I was trying to rack my brain thinking of games that were similar combat-wise to that game, and the only thing I could really think of was a game that I couldn't get into before, and now I'm like, maybe I should try it again. And that's Knights of the Old Republic, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic for Xbox, which I think I actually have an Xbox somewhere. I feel like I scored an Xbox last year somewhere, and it's in one of these bins or something, but I think I have an Xbox, so I might try to get Knights of the Old Republic back and give that a shot, because I feel like that combat was a similar kind of, again, walk over, slash your enemy, and like then they kind of take a turn, but you can kind of move, but it's kind of turn-based. Like, that combat is super fun and weird, and for some reason, all of a sudden, I love it. So, let me know in the comments below what you think. Am I crazy here? Was the combat similar on KOTOR to Phantasy Star Online? It seems like it was, but anyways, Phantasy Star Online definitely was something that I did not expect to love so much, and recently playing it again after years, I was like, wow, this game's really, really fun. Okay, so I guess I could just go straight to Phantasy Star, the other one, because I may as well. It's a nice transition, I suppose. Phantasy Star 1. Turn-based RPG that I just beat recently, but I beat the version on Switch. It was the Sega Ages version, which adds a map and more balanced difficulty. Phantasy Star is a really awesome game. Amazing game. A truly amazing game. Awesome RPG, and one that, if it was better known and wasn't on the Master System, probably would have beat out Final Fantasy and Dragon Warrior, Dragon Quest, at least on the graphics department. I mean, the graphics on this game are amazing for 8-bit. The music's amazing. Everything about this game is really cool. But anyways, this game changed my mind on something that I never thought I'd change my mind on, and that was the patience to go through a game that was a first-person dungeon crawler. Now, no, this game is not a first-person dungeon crawler the whole way through. Whenever you're on an overworld or you're in a town, it's an overhead view. But as soon as you enter a dungeon, all of a sudden you're looking straight on at the dungeon in first-person view. You can't see your character at all. And those kind of games have always traditionally turned me off in the past for some reason, like the Might and Magic games or like Etrian Odyssey. And now that I've beaten Phantasy Star and have gotten so used to that combat and that way of exploration, and with the map helping so much, now I'm like, well, now I want to play the Etrian Odyssey games now. I want to play, what's that other one? Dark Spire? Like, there's a bunch of, like, first-person, newer RPGs. My voice is squeaking. There's a bunch of, like, newer first-person dungeon-crawling RPGs, and even series of them, like Etrian Odyssey, that I want to play now. Or, like, Shin Megami Tensei Strange Journey. I used to have that game, and I got rid of it because I was like, first-person dungeon crawler, probably not going to get into it. Now I regret that decision, and I need that game back. So, yeah, definitely a game that has changed my mind on something, and that is the perspective of first-person dungeon crawling. So we've gotten through a lot of my list here. Okay, let's move on to Radiant Historia. I've talked about this game so many times. I mean, I probably don't even need to talk about this game, except for I feel like it's still underrated. Like, people don't talk about this game enough. It's not known. I only have a couple friends that have played this, and they loved it. This game just changed my perception on like what a favorite game, what my favorite game was. I mean, this isn't my favorite game of all time. That's probably Final Fantasy VI, but this is like top 5. I had no idea when I bought this game. This is one of the few games I bought right when it came out. I did have a DS, and this came out, and it looked really cool. And I bought this, obviously early. I got the one with the soundtrack and the cardboard box. But when I picked this up, I knew it was going to be pretty good. I could just tell. It was going to be pretty good. I had no idea that this would become one of my favorite games of all time. Something that I talk about on this channel constantly, because it is absolutely one of the most perfect games, one of the most perfect RPGs ever made. Musically, graphically, gameplay-wise, combat is ridiculous. I will be doing an episode and discussion about combat in RPGs, and definitely that will be talked about. Everything about Radiant Historia is almost perfection, and it just changed my view as far as, like, I thought I had my favorites nailed down. You know, I thought I knew what my top 5 were, and I'm pretty sure Radiant Historia edged one of those games out, because that's definitely in my top 5. It's one of the greatest games ever made, and it's just unfortunate that it's on the DS. You can only play it handheld. Oh, or the 3DS. They made the little upgraded version for that too. But I'm really hoping that one day we get a Switch port, and I'm really hoping one day we get a Radiant Historia sequel or some kind of new game in the series. But yeah, definitely changed my mind as far as what I thought a perfect RPG could be and what I thought perfect combat could be, because I honestly think Radiant Historia is some of the best combat ever. Okay, we're getting down to the nitty-gritty. Okay, Breath of the Wild. This changed my mind on a lot. I'm just going to try to keep this short. I was not a modern gamer. I was not a modern gamer until like 2 years ago. I did have a PS3. I've had a PS3 for like a while, like years now, but I didn't get it new, and I did enjoy it. There were some pretty good games for it. Fairly modern. It wasn't, though, until I got the Switch and Breath of the Wild that I was like, wow. I was like, wow. I had no idea modern games can be this good, this addicting. Something that I can play more than almost any other game I've ever played. Popping this game in the Switch was like being schooled. It was like being told that I had been wrong for years, that modern gaming was a force to be reckoned with, and this is what is possible. And since then, I have delved very deeply into the Switch library, I got a PS4, last year or whatever. I finally got a PS4 and play the crap out of that. Lots of games, lots of really good modern games that are amazing. And would I have gotten a Switch? I mean, I did get a Switch to play this. But, I mean, would I have gotten into modern gaming anyways? Probably. There are so many good games that came out in the last few years that, yeah, I probably would have eventually bit the dust and got into modern gaming anyways. But this really was like, wow, what else is there? Like, what else is there? This is such an incredible game that it made me want to play, Trails of Cold Steel and, like, the East games. Then, I remember that was one of the ones. I was like, East 9 looks so modern. I was like, can I get into that? I like the old East games. And it was like, when I played this, I was like, yes, I think I can. And sure enough, that was one of the next games I got. And I was like, fell in love. And then when I got my PS4, like, one of the first things I played was, like, Spider-Man. Like, I don't even like action games that much. I like RPG and adventure games mostly. But man, like, Spider-Man on PS4 was so good. I was like, holy crap, what have I been missing? Like, so now I'm playing catch up, and I have a ton of modern games, and I'm just playing the crap out of them. So Breath of the Wild and the Switch in general have changed my mind on that a lot, and it's changed my collecting a lot. I mean, I don't buy as many retro games anymore because I'm busy buying new games. Okay, I think I only have like 2 more subjects. Apparently we're putting T's where they don't belong. Yeah, I think the last one is how I got into tactical RPGs or strategy RPGs, whatever you want to call them. Basically, Shining Force and Front Mission are responsible. I mean, these 2 games are literally responsible for me getting into an entire genre that I dismissed before because, man, I don't know why. I feel like I played a couple strategy RPGs that I didn't really like or I couldn't get into as much. Believe it or not, I had a hard time getting into Final Fantasy Tactics. Nowadays I love it, but like when I first played it, I was like, this is really complicated. I just want to play some turn-based combat, and it didn't switch to a different battle screen. It just wasn't the same. I couldn't get into it. And then, let's see, what was another one that I played? Ogre Battle on Super Nintendo. And to this day, I don't understand people's like of that game. I don't like the auto battle thing, like not being able to control what your characters are really doing once you set them loose. I don't like that type of game. And the other one was Warsong, and I feel like I played all the wrong tactical/strategy RPGs. Like I just played all the wrong ones, and I couldn't get into them. And then I played Shining Force and was like, man, the old school feels are real. Like the graphics, the music, the simplicity, being able to just play a tactical RPG and be like, oh, okay, now I get it. Oh, you're just doing this and this and this, and it's super easy. Whereas before it was like, Final Fantasy Tactics is a lot more involved. And then I played Front Mission not that long after that. For some reason, I don't know what it is. Something about this cover and the back, like, screenshots, I always knew I was going to love this game. Even when I wasn't into tactical RPGs, I knew that I was going to be into this one. And when I did finally play it, and the customizable mechs and rocket launchers that shoot like 3 screens over, and like machine guns mounted, and like the crazy dark story and the isometric view, like everything about this like screamed yes. Yes, this is exactly what you need. And since then I've gotten into multiple strategy RPGs. I've even beaten Shining Force 2, I've beat Front Mission. Arc of the Lad is another one that I really like that I feel is underrated. But yeah, strategy RPGs, definitely one that my mind completely changed on. And last one for the discussion, this one's a few games, kind of including Front Mission. I'm going to pull it out here, pull out both of them. So this is the way Front Mission originally came out on the Japanese Super Famicom. Japanese Super Nintendo, in case you guys aren't in the know. This is the same as this, just Japan. We never got Front Mission in America until we got that DS version. But there is a fan translation for this game, so I played this in English with fan translation, and yeah, it's really good. But it's basically the same game as this. But anyways, my point is, this game, Front Mission Gun Hazard, which is totally different from this one. It's actually a side-scrolling, like, action RPG. Super fun. Let's see, Psycho Dream. I guess I should say what I'm talking about before I show all these. These are games that got me into import gaming. This one, it's so questionable how you say it. Is it Live-A-Live? 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 Like, I have no idea, but I played this game all the way through. This is one of the first imports that I played all the way through. This has a fan translation available for it. This game never came out in Japan, and it's a super fun RPG. And we've got, where is it? One of my favorite RPGs and favorite imports of all time, Sweet Home. This never came out in America, also has a fan translation. I cannot recommend this game enough. I know I talk about it on the channel, probably as much as Radiant Historia, but damn it, play this game. Somehow find a way to play this game. This is the darkest NES game you will ever play. You will be blown away. But yeah, these games, mostly these games, got me into import gaming. And I have a large stack of Super Famicom games. I have Famicom games. I even have ow, PS3. I even have an import there, Strider. Super badass remake. But yeah, imports are where it's at, man. Imports are super cool because A, you can get some games cheaper there than you can in America. Hagane is a great example. Hagane here on Super Nintendo is like a $600 game last I checked. But in Japan, this is like a $60. I think I got this for $60. And maybe it's gone up a little bit now. But yeah, because it's because you don't really need to read to play this game, just import it. Like, there's a few games like that, but really good games that we never got here in America, like Psycho Dream, an amazing 2D side-scrolling platforming action game where you have two different characters you can select from, and it's kind of a horror theme. This game should have came out in America. This game is gold. If we would have got this in America and I had that as a kid, that would have been one of my favorite games of all time. It's one of my favorite imports. It's so good. So yeah, there's been a few games that have gotten me into the whole import scene and playing games that, like, nobody I know has played. There's something cool about that. It's a little bit of a bragging right. Like, hey, I've beat Live-A-Live. Have you even played it? Like, I've never even heard of it. Like, yeah, that's super cool. There's something cool about playing games that, like, you know, people get tired of the Final Fantasies or the Dragon Quests or the East games or whatever. And it's like, there's this library of stuff from back in time that a lot of people haven't played. I mean, Shin Megami Tensei, you know, the famous Shin Megami Tensei series, you know, Super Famicom, Shin Megami Tensei 1 and 2. Super badass. And this goes along with that first-person dungeon crawling thing. Like, now I want to play these all the way through. I've played a little bit of them, but I want to play them all the way through now because now, all of a sudden, I like first-person dungeon crawling thanks to Phantasy Star. So I guess that's the point of the video. What has changed your mind in gaming? Are there any specific examples of something that completely opened your eyes to maybe a new genre or a new game that you never thought you would play or like? I can even think of another example. The Phoenix Wright games, the Ace Attorney or whatever it's called. Those games, I'm like, who would ever think that's gonna be fun? Like an attorney game, and you have to choose the right decisions to make the court progress go better. Or like the Trauma Center games where you're performing operations like on the DS with the stylus. That doesn't really sound that fun, but once you actually play it and you're suturing up somebody and, like, you know, injecting them and doing all kinds of crazy things with the stylus, all of a sudden you're like, damn, this game is super interactive and fun. Yeah, there's so many games that have changed my mind on genres and gameplay and what I like. It's crazy. I no longer can say that I only play RPGs and adventure games. I mean, I never always did anyways. I always liked Mario and Metroidvania games and stuff like that. But now I like so much more, and I'm glad that I've had my eyes opened, and I'm super curious if you guys have any similar stories about consoles or games or even just events that have changed your mind about gaming. So let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the episode, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Hopefully I've earned your subscription, and go ahead and leave a comment like I just said. That would be awesome. That's really the reason I do this, is so I can interact with people and talk about video games, because video games kick ass. So that's really all I have for you guys. I've been listening to November, the Materia album, in case you were curious, something a little more mellow. That's all I have for you guys. Thank you very much for watching. Keep rocking the retro game!